Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts about the 40k universe. I am your host Gersh1, and today we're going back to the Grey Knights. This is part 3 in a series of who knows how many videos. So if you have not checked out the other ones, please go to our channel and watch part 1 and part 2. So let's get into 40 Facts about the Grey Knights. The demon Ixthar Gonix, the Slayer of Destinies, foresees the role that the Grey Knights will play in his downfall, and the threat they will eventually pose to the Dark Gods. Overcome with his own cunning, the Lord of Change begins a plan that will take 8,000 Terran years to come to fruition, seeding lesser demons on worlds all across the Imperium, so that he might subtly manipulate future events. On the desolate planet of Forlore, the Grey Knights corner the radical Inquisitor Vetrix, after enacting the Psychanic Necroloris upon the Segmentum Solar. Vetrix has been declared a heretic by his Ordos. The Inquisitor is dragged back to the dungeons of Titan, pleading with his stony-faced captors that the Necroloris is the Imperium's only hope for survival. Neodan, brother captain of the Fifth Brotherhood, slays the Butcher of Zor, an ambitious overseer possessed by a demon of Khorne. Only after the demon and its servants have been dealt with does Neodan discover that the creature has been tainting the meat beasts of the Blood Factorum and spreading them across Zor and its neighboring worlds. With no knowledge of how far the corrupted flesh has spread, Neodan declares a final sanction against Zor, condemning millions to death rather than risking a demonic incursion. During their long war against the Hollow Cult and its many-limbed pleasure god, the Grey Knights lose almost the entire Seventh Brotherhood. The Chaos Cults lay a series of cunning ambushes for the Grey Knights, bending reality to isolate each of the Battle Brothers and overwhelming them with a tide of demonic flesh. The Grey Knight's retribution is absolute, and Supreme Grand Master Kalstan gathers the full might of the chapter against the cult. In the end, the only memory of the Hollow Cult that remains is recorded in the faded inks within the Sanctum Sanctorum in the citadels of Titan. Brother Captain Edon leads a dozen squads of the Second Brotherhood into the Veiled region seeking the Demon Fex. All communication ceases, and eventually the Council of Titan declares them lost. Nearly 2,000 Terran years after their disappearance, word reaches Titan of the lost brother captain Edon and his brothers. Unbeknownst to the chapter, Edon has followed the Demon Fex and its thrall into an area of the warp that owes its existence to the echoes of forgotten moments. Edon and his Grey Knights fought at the foot of the demon's fortress of deceit, each day falling to the grievous wounds only to rise again. Borne up by their unwavering resolve and psychic fury, faced with their combined might, the Demon Fex was finally cast down, though it was at the cost of Edon and his brothers. On their return to real space, their bodies begin to dissolve at an alarming rate. Before he dies, the brother captain only has time to send a coded signal to Titan, telling the Brotherhood of its victory. The chambers of purity are sullied by haunting specters of the warp, the ghost of vanquished foes clawing at the walls of reality and whispering secrets of future catastrophic events. The creatures warn of a time when the light of the Emperor will fail, and the Grey Knights will stand alone against the darkness, the fate of humanity resting upon the razor edge of their blades. The Purifiers endure the maddening tirades of these ghosts and the visions of the Imperium fallen into darkness and fire. They know these shades are but echoes of a monster that they pretend to be, barely connected to the warp and able to do no more harm than spew forth lies. The Purifiers also know that the demonic ghosts are a symptom of something ancient and powerful that slumbers beneath the surface of Titan. A warp storm descends on the Rorn system in the wake of the Pallid Prince and his demon hosts. A squad of Grey Knights are trapped by the storm on the Rorn Primex shipyard, having destroyed the Pallid Prince and his warp iron vessel. Unwilling to risk discovery by the citizens of Rorn, and denied warp travel by the storm, the Grey Knights set out into the void at sublight speed, the Battle Brothers entering stasis for their millennia-long voyage back to Titan. To the amusement of the Dark Gods, they torment their vessel by bringing him back to life, and for the next 12 standard years, the Grey Knights hunt and kill Zorgar hundreds of times on hundreds of different worlds. Only when the demon's mortal shell is destroyed for the 1000th time do the gods tire of their game. Slaneshi demon assassin Hextan attempts to sneak onto Titan and hide among an intake of recruits. Initially successful, the demon lurks on the plains of Zandu region among the bones of the dead, awaiting a suitable candidate to possess and carry it back to the Citadel. However, the creature's plan is unraveled when a strong-willed future Grey Knight hunts it down and imprisons it in the corpse of another recruit, unaware that this was not part of his trial. The demons of Tzeentch rob the populace of speech, every citizen rendered mute by the warp sorceries. In the silence that follows, the cult of the severed tongue is born. It debases members, torture and kill men and women with no voice to scream. For a standard year, the cult reigns without opposition, turning the planet into a silent hell, where corpses rot in the street, men and women live like vermin in the shadows, fearful of making the slightest sound that will give them away. The Grey Knights confront the cult on the verge of utter destruction, its cities completely given over to the worshipping of the demons that orchestrated their ruin. In the empty silence, the only sound to be heard are the bark of storm bolters and crackles of Nemesis-forged weapons, as the Grey Knights purify the planet and annihilate anything in their path. The Astral Blade Space Marine chapter is led down the path of chaos by their prideful chapter master, who has been possessed by the demon Etheric the Unrepentant. The demon servants use sorcery to possess almost every battle brother within the chapter's subterranean fortress monastery, one by one, slaughtering those strong enough to resist. As the blood of the last of the fallen is still cooling, the possessed Space Marines plunder the chapter's gene seed stores and set off for the Eye of Terror. However, when their battle barge Sword of Stars reaches high orbit, the Grey Knights are waiting for them. In the furious battle that ensues, Grey Knight Terminators teleport onto the bridge of the battle barge and banish Ethrak back into the warp in the midst of a furious melee. Broken in body and spirit, the chapter master of the Astral Blades accepts the Emperor's mercy, delivered at the hands of his saviors. The heretic Malforia the Mad constructs a vast maze of ghost glass in an attempt to harness the power of the warp for his corrupted machines. The maze has an unintentional side effect of trapping demons. The creatures are drawn towards the device only to become lost within its multi-dimensional twists and turns. When the demon prince Kal-Slidi becomes ensnarled, its rage shakes the structure to its foundation. The Grey Knights arrive to find the heretic a puppet of Kal-Slidi and his world on the verge of a full-blown demon incursion. To defeat the demon prince, the Grey Knights enter the maze, hunting down the demon trapped within. A battle of reflections and illusion ensues. The battle brothers surrendered by the flickering demonic faces and psychic manifestations. Reaching the center of the maze, the Grey Knight's Justicar cuts down the Malforic flesh puppets and shatters the ghost glass. Faced with Kal-Slidi, he brings him down and casts the demon back into the warp. For 3 months, a warband of the Night Lord's Traitor Legion prey upon the gleaming marbled city of Corellanth, turning the white street crimson with the blood of their victims and decorating the rearing stone towers with severed body parts. At length, the population rises in a maddened frenzy of terror, plunging the planet into anarchy. When a Grey Knight's purgation force, under the mandate of Inquisitor Lord Baum, arrive to challenge the renegades and restore order, they are confronted not just by the Night Lords, but a force of traitor titans. Coralanth is reduced to ruin in the ensuing carnage, and the Inquisitor Lord and all but a handful of Grey Knights are slain. The Grey Knight strike cruiser, Titan's Hand, suffers a catastrophic Geller field failure, leaving the warship unshielded against the warp. Almost at once, the ship is engulfed with demonic creatures hungry for the souls of those on board. The Grey Knights stand haloed by a psychic energy against the warp, each one shielding his mind and body through sheer willpower. Against servitors and chapter serfs, turned into puppets of chaos, the Battle Brothers fight to reclaim their vessel. When the Hand finally exits the warp, the Grey Knights stand in the midst of a command bridge, covered in the remains of their unfortunate crew. The public execution of 666 heretics on the planet of Horvar III has terrible consequences. Through the paganistic and extravagance of the event, the nearsighted planetary governor unwittingly completes an ancient demonic ritual. As the last heretic dies, with a curse upon his lips, the circle of sorcery is completed and a gateway to the warp is open. The chaos well yawns wide, and the demons spill out, gibbering, howling, and spitting fire into the masses of terrified citizens. In a matter of hours, Horvar III is turned into a demonic playground of madness and death. The unfortunate planetary governor is possessed by the Slaaneshi demon prince, Lystra, and the Golden Host is released upon the world. The Grey Knights arrive in force to discover Lystra hosting blood games with the surviving citizens, the demon forcing them to commit unspeakable acts of violence against each other, or be hurled into the warp well. Turning its attention to his new foes, Lystra crafts a series of tests for the Space Marines, shaping tangled labyrinths of living, screaming flesh around them, and sending seekers of Slaanesh to hunt them down. The hunters soon become the hunted, and the Grey Knights fight their way to the Warp Well, where the Demon Prince is holding court over the mutilated remains of Horvar citizens, wearing the skin of their governor. At the cost of many Grey Knights, the demon is cast back into the warp. Before the Battle Brothers depart, they pile the citizens' tortured bodies onto the corpse of the executed heretics, sealing the warp well with the blood of innocents. A World Eater warband, under the command of the notorious murderer Dalak, launched a mass incursion against the world of Garanhir, intent upon spilling the blood of the faithful in an unprecedented act of veneration of the blood god. Expecting to find the planet unprepared for the attack and ripe for the slaughter, what the berserkers actually encounter as they charge from their assault ramps is a world already claimed by war, the populace armed and led by the famously militant Inquisitor Malphus Crow, and bolstered by a force of Grey Knight Space Marines. Battle is joined without delay, and while the warriors of the demon make a lethal account of themselves, they are utterly slain, the entire warband cut down by the defenders. The storms of judgment occurred along the Caradrid warp fault. The entire Grey Knights chapter responded as the dangerous warp fault opened, and 3 massive warp storms suddenly lashed out into the sector in the Segmentum Tempestus. The populated planets of the sector were plunged into anarchy and revolt, as millions were driven insane overnight. Ordo Malus Inquisitor Ferrando Key first recorded this encounter with the demon beast of Khorne, known as Gorefeaster, during this time. This foul abomination of chaos is a creature taken by the dark gods and corrupted for the blood gods' entertainment, after being possessed by the spirit of a ravenous demon. Tormented and driven insane by its hideous form, its soul is possessed by the base and bloody desires of the demons within, seeking only to kill. Gorefeaster is a huge beast of muscle, fangs, and claws, with only one thought driving it: to charge headlong into the enemy, tearing and goring a bloody path across the battlefield. The Inquisitor names the creature in his works and tells of his encounter and exorcism of the beast on his expedition to the Hell Quadrant. The Space Hulk Devourer of Stars appears in the Armageddon system. Upon reaching orbit, it disgorges a vast horde led by the infamous demon Primarch Angron upon the world of Armageddon's continent of Armageddon Prime. The Chaos Horde initially makes great gains, taking control of Armageddon Prime and threatening to overwhelm the other continent of Armageddon Secundus. However, the defenses of the lower continent hold, chiefly due to the valor of the Great Wolf Logan Grimnar and 300 of his brave space wolves, allowing a full brotherhood of 100 Grey Knights under the command of Battle Captain Tarmar to arrive, carrying the battle directly to Angron and his diabolical horde of berserkers and cornet demons. In a titanic clash, Angron and his bloodthirster honor guard are eventually bested, though it cost the lives of almost a full brotherhood. 96 dead, 9 permanently disabled out of a total force of 109. The Space Wolves continue to fight through to its conclusion. This becomes the first war of Armageddon. Of the few Grey Knights who survive the final confrontation with the demon Primarch Angron, many go on to achieve high rank within the chapter. Arvon Stern, Kadone, Varn, and Dark Tegvar fought as new Grey Knights on Armageddon's dusty plains, as did the Den Justicar, Worth Mordrak. The battle has a profound effect upon one Grey Knight in particular. Upon returning victorious to Titan, Garon Crow sets aside duty to his brotherhood and enters the rank of the Purifiers, where he has served with unblemished honor to this day. And those were 40 facts about the Grey Knights. Thank you so much for listening. I hope your painting is going well while you listen to me mispronounce a bunch of Grey Knights' names. Thank you so much for being subscribers, liking, commenting, all that good stuff. And if you get inspired and you create your own lore for your Grey Knights based off of some of the stories that have been written on them, please comment them down below. I would love to read them. Thank you so much for everything. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.